All That Glitters
by Ines, Bautista-Yao.
Something tells me that you don't have any other place, Carlos, Billy wryly observed when Carlos entered the university grounds.
I don't think there's another place in all of Metro Manila that can rival my special spot right by the observatory. Do you?
He raised his eyebrows at her. Point taken. I wish we'd stop for some food, though. All Billy had left was the core of her apple, and her stomach was still growling. Carlos pulled over, killed the engine, and reached behind him for a paper bag filled with all kinds of junk food. Billy gasped when she saw it.
Do I get my A in Belinda Santiago 101 now?
He grinned proudly. She snatched a bag of chippy from him. You will never get a bad grade in that class, Carlos, and you know it.
Believe me, I thought I'd failed a few weeks ago.
His voice softened. Billy gulped, unable to tear open the bag after hearing that. She set it aside and turned so her entire upper body was facing him. Carlos, I was the one who failed. I failed in so many things. It's a miracle I'm here, that you're still here. Carlos took her hands in his.
Let's take the chips outside. It's a nice night. We don't want to waste it sitting in here. Huh?
He took Carlos' picnic mat and spread it out in the open field next to the observatory. The skies were clear, giving them an awesome view of the stars, and the whisper of a breeze brushed against their skin. Billy held on to the chips, but all of a sudden her appetite vanished. Carlos sat across her and looked up at the star-speckled sky.
Makes me wish I had an unlimited access to the observatory.
Billy grinned. I think that was the best date I ever had, even if it wasn't meant for me. Locking eyes with her, Carlos said,
Why did you allow Inigo to bully you into trying to extort money from Hal?
Billy's brow wrinkled. You really don't know? A self-satisfied smile played around the curve of his lips.
I want to hear it from you.
Before he could duck or raise his hands to catch them, a bag of chips began flying at his head.
Hey, stop it!
He laughed, throwing it back at Billy.
Come on, Billy. After that night in my house, I was completely miserable. You can't blame me for having even a little celebration, even if it's just me doing a dance of joy inside my head.
Billy grinned and scooted next to him, nudging him with her elbow. I'll only tell you if I get to see this dance of joy in person. Tonight. Carlos whooped.
You're on.
Billy rolled her eyes upward. I should have held out for something harder.
Come on. Put a boy out of his misery.
Fine. Billy took a deep breath. I don't know what Nika said to you exactly, but when I told Inigo there was no way he could get me to agree to lie to Hal, he said... Her voice broke as the memory came rushing back, flooding her senses. Carlos put a hand over hers and gently rubbed his thumb across it. Billy swallowed hard and continued. He told me that he'd done his research and had all the tools he needed to destroy your future. He said he had connections everywhere and he was going to make sure you wouldn't be able to get a job or be accepted by any of the graduate schools you apply for. He said he was going to crush your self-confidence until you were just a shell of a man or something like that. I was too stunned to remember all of it. And all I knew was that he was threatening the most important person in my life, and I couldn't allow that to happen. The tears came so easily. Maybe because she'd already shed some earlier that evening, or maybe she could feel the fatigue gnaw at her soul, but whatever it was, Billy knew that her raw emotions were plastered all over her face. But she also knew that she was with the one who wouldn't do anything to hurt her, who knew that this was not the time to tease or make fun, who knew what she needed. That was to take her in his arms and hold her until the wave of tears subsided. Billy rested her cheek against his soft shirt that smelled just like him, that wonderful scent that brought her calm and peace and offered up a silent prayer of thanks.
Why didn't you just tell me?
He murmured into her hair. You would have stopped me. And where would that have left us? Billy leaned back and looked at him, not caring that her eyes were probably bloodshot and her nose all red.
Of course I would have stopped you. Of course I would have looked for another way.
His voice was kind, not rebuking or laying blame. You don't know how powerful Inigo is. Billy looked away. But Carlos put his fingers on her chin and gently tilted her face back.
I do. And I completely understand why you felt you had to do this.
He smiled at her.
I'm also completely blown away by what you've just said. I thought I'd lost my chance forever. I thought you were too smitten with him to make room in your heart for anyone else.
What are you talking about? You've always been in my heart, Carlos. Billy glowered at him. He chuckled and moved closer.
Well, I take up a lot of space, you see. You know, being so tall and all.
Billy rolled her eyes at that.
I'm not exactly thrilled about sharing that space with anyone else.
Billy felt her heart speed up at how close his lips were. She smiled at his words. You do know that I have a couple of brothers who take up a lot of space, too. Carlos inched even closer.
Those boys love me. I'll gladly scoot over so I can take center stage.
Oh, and there's also Nika, who could be a very demanding friend, and my mom, who... Her words died on her lips as Carlos pulled against hers, finally shutting her up. And all the pain, all the fear, all the frustration that had consumed her over the past days had evaporated with the touch of his mouth, the feel of his arms around her, and the hammering of his heartbeat so close to hers. Billy wove her hands through his hair and breathed in the scent that belonged only to him. She could kiss him under the starlit sky forever. When Carlos finally broke their kiss, he rested his forehead on hers and murmured,
Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine kissing you would be so...
hot? She teased.
Well, yeah, I always knew that.
He laughed quietly.
But that wasn't the word I was looking for. Right. That's the word.
Okay.
I never imagined it would feel so right.
Billy dropped the playfulness and squeezed his hand. You've always been home to me, Carlos. Being together has always been right. I just never realized it until...
Till a slick, money-grubbing extortionist had to threaten my life? Yeah, I know. I guess I should consider myself lucky anyway. Could never have happened at all. If drama's what you need to come to your senses, Billy girl, I'll take it.
Billy opened her mouth to fire back a retort, but he swiftly killed it by kissing her over and over until she was out of breath, till her head was spinning, till her heart was overflowing with love for this exasperating, rumpled boy whom she knew loved her just as much.
All that glitters.
By Ines Bautista-Yao.